Welcome back to the Keep Going podcast with Vin Kennedy. I'm your host, Vin Kennedy. Today we have a special guest. This is Matt. Matt, you want to do a brief intro on yourself?
Let's do it. So my name's Matt Karl. Matty K runs on Instagram, TikTok. Those are the two platforms I'm using pretty much all the time now. Mostly Instagram, I'd say, but marathon runner, motivation, run coaching, all that nutrition. I preach pretty much a healthy mindset. Um, Motivation is pretty much my big thing on all the platforms. Consistency, I show up daily and I like to document and journey all of my running. So right now I'm training for a half marathon and we'll just go from there so we can get into it from that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, I mean, you're out here crushing races. You're going, I think, what'd you run? 120.
Yeah, 121 I just ran in a
Crazy.
practice half marathon. Building up. The original goal is to run a sub 121 March 19th at the United NYC half marathon.
Cool.
So my previous PR was a 125 a year and a half ago, and we kind of just ran one on a limb on 75 miles for the week and see what we did. And somehow I ran a 121.25.
Crushed it.
So we're,
Yeah,
we're close, and if we can put all the pieces together and have a nice day, I think the goal will be hit.
absolutely, man. So, kind of want to kick off right there because it seems like running is really like your catalyst and kind of helps you throughout the rest of your life. So how did running start for you? How did the motivation then start for you? Like, where'd you kind of find all that and how do you navigate it?
So playing sports, I mean, like many of us playing sports all through like childhood, high school, went to St. Joseph's University in Philadelphia my freshman year of college and ended up getting hurt. I broke my pelvis.
Oh,
So
wow.
I was out. I didn't play, I ran track and field, short sprints. And when I got hurt, just wasn't loving the school, loving the whole area. I mean, I'm more of a warm weather kind of person.
Yeah.
So I moved down to Tampa and finished my college the next 3 years at University of Tampa. And really wasn't running much then. I mean, I rehabbed the pelvis injury and was more in just that college lifestyle, going to the gym, going to class, part-time job, etc. And then after graduating college, I ran a half marathon, which was 2019, and I ran like a 2 hour and 10 minute half marathon. And I kind of was like, this endurance thing is really cool. Like, kind
Right.
of got the bug and would go for like 3, 4 mile runs here and there. I mean, being in Tampa, it's beautiful out 12 months out of the year.
Right.
So
Can't beat it.
would go to the gym. And then one day, if I'm not in the mood to go to the gym, I was like, all right, I'll just go for a jog. But I was also weighing like 180, like really loving the gym, loving like heavy weights. And then it wasn't until COVID really hit that I made that full dive into endurance sports. The gym was closed, and I was like, what am I going to do? I was like locked up. I'm someone who likes to be outside, likes to be active. So I just started running like I think many people did. And I just had like an Apple Watch and I would put it on run and I would go for like a 2 mile run. And then the next day I'd be like, all right, I'll go for a 3 mile run, so on and so on. And then when I wasn't running, I really wasn't working much because of the whole lockdown. So I was just bored. So I just started like studying running, nutrition on running. Like I didn't know what an easy run was. I was just going out there and trying to beat my time each
Right.
time,
Yeah.
which is like the worst thing you can possibly do.
Crazy.
I
Everybody
was
does
wearing
it though.
like, yeah, I like typed in best running shoes. Vaporfly came up. I'm wearing Vaporflies every day.
Right.
I'm like I was your novice long distance runner. Like
Right.
I may have had some sort of like endurance and speed from like my childhood and in college, but like really coming into the marathon, half marathon, 10K, 5Ks, I was as raw as you can be. So it really just came from I just started researching and just studying the marathon. Yeah, just I became obsessed with it pretty much, like anything that I've done my whole life. And yeah, so from when we locked down in COVID in 2019, I mean, we were lucky in Florida. We were pretty open still for most of it. We got to be outside and do a lot, but I just started running. I was running 2 times, 3 times a day some days, and just really, really fell in love with it. And with all like researching easy runs and learning like threshold pace, like lactic threshold, and just all the different avenues of running, I think it just made me better right there. And then just once the world finally opened again and we could start racing. So if we still in lockdown, I ran the New York City virtual marathon, virtual full marathon. That was the first race. So I signed up. That was the first actual race I was ever doing, because being from New Jersey originally, New York, I mean, that marathon, like I've watched it on
Yeah.
TV every year. So I ran the virtual half marathon in Tampa. And I remember I was wearing just like my Hoka Rincons that I had. And I had no water or anything. My girlfriend like driving around in a little red car, like trying to find me and like give me water. I had no
Yeah.
gel. I didn't know what I was doing. I ran 3 hours and 59 minutes, and that
I
was
mean,
in
sub four
June.
though.
Yeah, June of 2019. And then that's really where everything kicked off. I was like, I need to hire a coach. Like, I want to make 2021, which is when I was going to run the actual New York City Marathon. I want to try to run like sub 3, because like you saw Nick Bear run sub 3, and that was like the big thing to do is run sub 3. So I created, this is all that was done before I even used Instagram or social media. That was just more just on my own time. And then
Right.
for the New York City prep, I created Matty K runs as kind of like how any fitness account starts. People want to just make an account, document their journey. I wasn't really thinking it would ever have a following
Right.
or anything. Just make it, and then I could document. Like I did 112 days. So I was like, I'll post each day for 112 days. And then when the race is over, I can look back at it and be like, oh, this is so cool. Every run I did, I was consistent on. I showed up, and that was kind of like just to hold me to the standard. And I would say I started that account in June, and by like September, it started. They had like 500 followers and like 1,000 followers, and I was like, "Oh, people are actually like interested in this." And I
Yeah.
was just providing uh information, like how I got started running, like tips that helped me, like nothing professionally. I wasn't a run certified coach at the time or anything. I was just like putting out stuff that helped me that maybe could help others, and it did. And then motivation on my account is just like more just me showing up every day. Like I always just like set the standard for myself that like I'm going to show up, I'm going to do the work. And that's really the motivation I put out, is just that like you'll always see my watch on my story with X amount of miles on it. So yeah, so I that 2021 I ran the New York City Marathon, and I ran 3 hours and 11 minutes and 18 seconds. And that was I got close to sub 3, but I knew I wasn't in sub 3 shape yet. And then I would say my Instagram was growing a decent amount still at that time. So like I had the momentum of like I just need to break sub 3, break
Yeah.
sub 3. And I took another hard month and a half after that, and then ran that BPN Go One More marathon in January, and I missed it by 53 seconds. I ran 3 hours and 53
Jesus.
seconds.
Yeah.
So I think it was just one of those things too. Like I'm never gonna quit. Like
Right.
I'm just gonna keep doing it, keep grinding at it, and always keep a positive mindset. Like I knew my time would come, and I'll hit sub 3 when the moment was right, and the
Yeah.
moments weren't right in both of those moments. So we kind of went back to the drawing board after that in January of last year, and I took 10 months of really just working on myself, working on my speed, working on my endurance, and we finally hit it in Chicago just in October. So I've
Awesome.
only I only broke sub 3 like 3 4 months ago now, but I'm already looking over like to future goals like Berlin to be under 250 by like a ton.
That's
So
awesome. Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of my
Ton.
running story.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Ton
I
to
was
unpack there.
a little winded on it.
No, it's good though. But so something I love that you do with your social media, and obviously like you had the pursuit of a sub three. Like I love this story. And then like you said, the accountability too, because sometimes obviously different weather situations, but it's cold here. I wake up in the morning, I'm like, and sometimes I do it early, like I'll hit like a 5 a.m., like 4 miles, and I'm just like dragging my feet. But then I see people like you posting, or I see the day before, and it's just like they're doing it. And then something I like that you do as well is that you bring yourself into it where it's like, I don't always want to do this. Like you're real with it. Like I think it was last week or the week before. I think you had a track workout or a paced workout, and you said you're like, I don't want to do this, and then you posted after, and you're like, I did it though. You know what I mean? It's that accountability, and I think that's what pushes people more than just the daily consistency. It's seeing that people don't want to do it either, and that's what discipline is.
Yeah, and I think a ton of it for me too is like I mean, as anyone grows on Instagram, you'll always get people who are doubting you and whatnot. And I get more than just not like doubt, but like people all the time like, oh, it's I would do the same thing if I didn't have a full-time job. And like people are like, how do you know I don't have a full-time job? Like
Right.
I'm waking up at 4 in the morning to make sure I can get the work in, then to shower, make breakfast, head into a full 9 to 5 job. And it's like that's what I always preach. Like you have 24 hours in a day. Like you can always find time for everything. Like
Absolutely.
you only work for 8 to 10 hours a day. Say you sleep for 6 to 7 hours. I mean, that gives you plenty of time to do stuff to better yourself.
Absolutely.
So
And
that's
not
like,
even that, but
yeah.
even for the people that aren't working a full-time job and they've made this a full-time job, I mean, if you're
I
envious of
mean,
them,
yeah.
they're
If
winning.
you can,
Yeah.
if you could swing it as a full time job, more power to you. I
Right.
mean, it's a great avenue to have an income, and yeah, all
I think
for it. But yeah, I have a full time job, and I do this. So I mean, like people think social media is like my full time job. I mean, it's not.
right.
I do a full time job on one side, and then this is kind of like a part time job.
Right.
But I love doing it, and it gives me something to always just motivate and share with others. So I mean, just why I do it and motivate. I know me waking up at 5 o'clock, one, get a better me, but it may help 2 to 3 other people. If it helps one other person, it's a win
Yeah.
for me.
Absolutely. And yeah, I think a lot of that, and I think everybody kind of gets hate to a certain level. I truly don't get much anymore, but I used to put on my story purposely. Like I did the David Goggins 4x4x48. And like I put in the boxes like, will I complete this? Yes, no. And like everybody that clicked no, like I don't remember your name, but I remember how many people said no. You know what I mean? Like, and
Exactly.
that's fuel, it's fuel to the
Yeah.
fire. But it's and that stuff too. And like it's just people kind of looking in a mirror, right? Of like where maybe they want to be or people
Exactly.
shoot the hate too. So
I
but
mean, people, yeah, people enjoy just like
yeah,
getting off on others. Like,
it's
I
true.
mean, I'm such a positive person. I'm always positive, always smiling, always trying to share positivity. So I don't understand it, and
Right.
I kind of just let it go in one ear out the other, laugh it off. Like, I mean, half the
Absolutely.
time I'm reading like these troll comments, like, and I'm having the best time in the world laughing at it. Like,
Yeah, no, absolutely.
but it's yeah, it's
But
fun stuff.
one thing I really want to touch on, so like a lot of people would hear that you ran track in college and just be like, oh, well, he was destined for a sub three. But if you kind of want to navigate the big differences between obviously the short distance compared to a half or a full marathon.
Oh, it's night and day. I mean, short distance, I mean, I've never ran over probably 5 miles
Right.
before I started doing like the long distance stuff, the endurance stuff. I still like being in high school and college, they don't teach you what an easy run is.
Right.
Like you're running for a 400 meter is still like a 60-second race, say. Like it's not, it's a short race. I mean, anything 200 meters. Then you run even a 5K, which is 3.1 miles, and it just there's no correlation in the
Right.
short distance and the long distance. I think it's building that aerobic base is where like you really become a distance runner and just better at the distance stuff is just like keeping those easy runs easy is so crucial, and they're so boring. I mean, still to this day, mine are I sit at like 8 minute, 8:15 easy pace, and I see people running like 7:30 easy days and running like easy day, and they're running like 3:30 marathons,
Right.
which it's like there's you gotta slow it down and just drop your ego at the door. And like I struggled with that for a long time, but when you finally just realize if you keep your easy days easy, like your fitness is just gonna go through the roof.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I definitely struggle with that as well. And then sometimes too, like obviously the watches aren't, you can't live and die by them, but I'll see the heart rate's like 143, 6 miles, and it was like 745, and I felt good. So I'm like,
Yeah.
sometimes I'll let myself slide, but yeah, it's true. Keeping it slower.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, I used to be the guy like wearing the strap around your chest, and like I had the foot pod on, and like sometimes you just too much data too is just
true.
like it just screws with your mind. So now like I don't wear the strap. I just have whatever's on the wrist, and I go off of feel. Like I want to make sure like I can have a full conversation while I'm running. I want to be able to talk. I want to be able to feel like, oh, this is easy. I could go faster. And more or less just when I finish, like you said, I have a full day of work. I don't want to be like a slug the
Right.
rest of the day. Like I
True.
want to be able to
Yeah.
function. And then at 9 o'clock, go to bed, repeat the cycle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And something else you touched on is the work-life balance. So, obviously, how do you make that work for you? I know you get up early, but, obviously, on days that you have longer runs, how do you kinda structure your days?
Yeah, so I mean, my run for me, like it comes before anything. I mean, I will sacrifice sleep for my runs. So right now, I mean, I'm in week 9 of a half marathon prep where I'm running 12-mile easy days. So I have 12-mile easy days. My workouts are on Wednesdays and they're about 14 to 16 miles. And then the long runs, obviously, like an 18 plus on a Saturday. So like forget about the weekend, but for those Monday to Friday, I'm waking up around 4:30 because I'm not the kind of person I can't just get up. I know a lot of people can and like walk out the door at 4:45 then. Like
Right.
I need like a good 30 minutes, 35 minutes to like actually wake up and even at that time I'm still not awake.
Right.
Like it's definitely tough like those days, but yeah, for those like say Wednesday, I have a 16-mile workout. I'll be up around 4:30, out the door by 5, and then I'll run from like 5 to 7ish, say, and then start the day. And then I'll work from 9 to 5. And then after work, if I'm not doing some sort of like mobility work or like a yoga class, I'll just come home, eat dinner, and kind of just wind down and get ready for the following day.
Cool. And then something else too, which you kinda touched on was, I think you said you were up to, like, 180 pounds?
I was up to like 180 pounds back like 2018. I have some like reels where like I'm really like muscular. Now I got like no muscle on my body, but
Well, I was gonna say, but people would assume that's just because of running, but I know that that's a choice, right? Like, you
yeah,
kinda
I preach also like that like weight really doesn't matter in running and like you can weigh whatever you want, like weigh what feels good on you. And like where I lost weight from running was more just I wasn't prioritizing lifting. Like people talk about the hybrid athlete all the time and it's a it's
yeah,
definitely a weird phenomenon. I'm not gonna say there's no such thing, but there's no sub 3 runner who's also going to be, there's very, very few.
right,
Like you have to pick one at the end of the day. You're not going to be a 220-pound guy running sub 3 and then benching 315 for 20 reps. Like
right,
there's very few of those. Obviously, there's the exception to everything,
right,
but it's a very, very there's a fine line in it. And I chose that I'm going to prioritize running because I just became obsessed with it more than lifting. So yeah, I'll go to the gym here and there and get in some work, but most of it when I'm there is going to be mobility, it's going to be core, it's going to be body weight stuff. Rarely you're ever going to see me like laying on a bench press again.
right. Yeah, everything's kinda geared towards running, like you said, it's your priority, and
Exactly.
I think, yeah, honestly, what you said is so true because obviously there are so many people, and I would even consider myself because I do lift and run, but it's so true. Like when you have that goal in mind, like whenever I have a race in mind, it's running. Like it's not even,
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
can't, you have to sacrifice. Absolutely. Um, and then how do you keep the positive self talk? Obviously, you get deep in these runs, everybody goes through it. What are some things that you say to yourself? And I ask this question generally at the end, but like, what keeps you going?
To be honest, like on my easy, I personally just love running. I know it sounds cliche on it, but like my easy days, I throw in a podcast. I put on like Joe Rogan, and I can run for 12 to 14 miles, blink, and the run's over, and I'm like, all right, on to the next one. I mean, when I get into that like pain cave in a race, say, and I'm like, oh man, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like, say I bring me to like mile 23 of my sub 3. and I'm like, oh my God, I need to do it. At that moment, it was just like, I can't do this again.
Right.
Like, we've done this so many times. I can't fail on this again.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm someone who puts all my goals out there. I share everything with the world. I'll share the failures, I'll share the success. But I think it's just more, I just look back at like all my training in those moments and I'm like, I've done stuff harder than this.
Right.
I can just finish the job.
Yeah. Like you got to
So
do this. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like, and that's like my girlfriend and me were laughing about when I finished. She was like, "I can't go through this again." I was like, "Me neither." I was like, "We need a
Yeah.
new goal." I was like, "We need
Absolutely.
something." So yeah, I felt that was one of my definitely best moments to finally accomplish that.
Yeah.
It felt great and such a major marathon being in Chicago, like the energy of it and everything was it was awesome.
That's great. Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm shooting for it as well. I've realized, I mean, I dove into running like 7 months ago. I did 2 marathons in 7 months. I'm doing a half in April,
Okay.
and I need the volume, and I've realized that. And it's just I don't have the volume on my legs. I don't have the aerobic base fully to do the sub 3. So I'm pushing it off to the end of November, and I'm gonna do a couple dabble in the ultra world and kind of just pick that up. But it's an awesome accomplishment. And it's great that you did it, especially like a race like Chicago, like you said. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
I find it too, like with the sub three, having the right coach and having somebody who's just constantly dialed in on you and making sure like your workouts are on point, you're
Right.
staying healthy, all of that is just such a key. And this half prep I've had, my coach has just been like every single day, like on me, making sure the workouts are good. And I've never been in better fitness or shape in my life. So, I credit to find yourself a coach. Everyone's obviously different, but find a coach that works for you, a coach that cares about you, and then a coach that's not overwhelmed by a billion other things and
Right.
can really put all of his eyes onto you, onto what your goals are, and believes in you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what
That's
that's really a big thing that's for me. I mean, working with a dozen, not a dozen, but a few coaches, like I've finally found like a coach that I can truly say is like works for me and has really taken my running to the next level.
yeah, absolutely. And you obviously you said you coach as well, correct?
Yeah, so like I since I have a full-time job, running's like a half job at this point.
Right.
So yeah, I coach about 10 runners. I love coaching the beginner runner. I don't have like many sub 3 or real like fast marathoners or anything. It's more I love coaching people getting into running, teaching them about running, running 10K, running a half marathon, running their first marathon and building out plans in that aspect for them. So I do that just on the side. Like I said, about 10 runners I have at the moment, just because I don't want to overwhelm myself.
Right.
And two, I love giving them like that one on one feel where they can text me at any hour of the day and I can help them or adjust the plan for them, etc.
Absolutely. And then if you kind of want to also dive into zero elevation and like I know you're also or you're with a couple other brands, correct?
Yeah, so I created Zero Elevation kind of I think it was not as kind of as a joke, but it was more like you sign up for all these races and there's like an affiliate tab and I never had anyone to write in. And so I was like I'm gonna make a group and
Yeah.
I'm gonna start sharing it. So I was like, what could I name it? And Zero Elevation came out because everyone always makes fun of me on my Strava that I literally get like 0 to 4 elevation
Right.
every run I get because Tampa has no hills, and it's something I definitely lack a ton on is hill training. So we created Zero Elevation. I have a group of about 6 guys here who I run with a ton, who are like right on board with it. And then I was like, let me build this into Matty K runs and have it be a group that like anyone, if they need to join a race and they want to type in an affiliate, join Zero Elevation. So and the whole premises of it was like zero doubt, zero limit, zero elevation, and it kind of just grew from there. So I
That's
think
awesome.
it grew from Matty K runs, but then the community of it I think is what I really liked about it was having someone say in California wearing zero elevation merch or like a singlet or a hat in their race and then just having it grow from that.
It's cool. It's really cool to see the reach. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, I love seeing like I'll see like orders come in and they're like from all over the country and like different states and everything,
Right.
and it's like, wow, this is awesome.
It's cool. And then so are you with VPN?
Yeah, so I'm with VPN. I started working with VPN. This is a while ago now. I was part of the like original grouping in
Right.
it, like November of 2021, maybe.
Cool.
So yeah, like 2 years now, and absolutely love VPN. VPN products. I mean, even being an ambassador, like if I wasn't an ambassador, I would still use all of their products. Their strong greens and strong reds are something I've taken all through college before I even started running. I just love all of that digestion health and just getting all of the microgreens and reds in that you normally wouldn't get on a college diet, especially
Right.
because you're not eating all the broccolis and etc. And yeah, I mean, just all of their whey protein I use. I don't use too many supplements. Um, for pre-run nowadays, I'm using a lot of the Martin stuff
Okay.
and the gels from them. That's not sponsored or anything. That's just what I found works best on my stomach.
Yeah. No, and I've learned firsthand it's so important to find what works for your stomach because you don't want mix ups like that.
No, definitely not.
Yeah. So what are some tips you would have for new runners? And obviously you said you coach a lot of new runners. So what's kind of like the initial advice you give and how you wean people in?
So my three things are like I always preach, just keeping those easy days easy. But besides that, I would say the two biggest things are don't worry about pace. Throw pace out the door and just run off of feel. Run for time over mileage. I find if you say run for 20 minutes over run for 2 miles, it's way less intimidating because people hear 2 miles and they're like, oh my God, it's 2 miles. But 20 minutes, oh, I've done so much more in 20 minutes.
Right.
So always looking at just time based over mileage based in the beginning. And especially with new runners, the whole say 2 minute jog, 1 minute walk, and giving them that area to work on, it works wonders because then 30 minutes goes by and they're like, oh my gosh, I've ran for X amount of time. And it builds that confidence in the runner as well. And then the third thing that I would say for new runners, I would say don't skip or don't neglect recovery and rest days because especially in the beginning, like I wanted to run like every day and I was like if I'm not running today, I'm not going to have a good my fitness is going to go way down and then I'm going
Right.
to be sluggish or I'm going to lose all my gains or fitness, whatever you want to call it. And what I've realized, and what I think a lot of people realize, is that recovery day or just active recovery, instead of running one day, go for a mile or 2 mile walk. It just helps your body so much. And then you can come back the following week and just be so like rejuvenated and feel so good. So just making sure, listen to your body. I mean, everyone knows their body
Right.
differently. And if you're tired, it may be best to take the rest day over that easy run or that recovery run.
Yeah, absolutely. And what would you say is one of like the hardest life lessons you learned? It could be through running or just in life in general. And how have you kind of overcame that?
We'll keep it on the running aspect, and I think it's just putting your goals out there to, I mean, will say 20,000 people, and then failing and not making an excuse for it, and just kind of saying, we failed, but we're just going to go back to the drawing board and we're going to fix XYZ and we're going to come back and do it again.
Yeah.
And I think for me, failing in New York and then failing at BPN, coming so close to the sub three, and then finally doing it and making the adjustments, it really it was that's what made it even better.
Yeah. It makes it sweeter, right? I mean, because
100%.
you can't fail if you don't quit. And I'm on the same thing now where honestly, I just wanted to run a marathon and do a bodybuilding show in the same year. And I picked the Colorado marathon because I knew I could run the marathon. I was like, what will make this worse? And obviously the altitude in Colorado. Um, and during prep, my coach was like, hey, at some point here, if you really had this volume, you could run a sub three. So I ran a 3:23 in Colorado. I ran a 3:11 in Mesa, Arizona. And now I'm gonna just take my time and do it. But it's true. I feel like now it's gonna be sweeter because of the build up for it.
And I felt that same way. Like if I ran it, I looked back like, wow, because I was already signed up for Chicago
Right.
at the time. Like I was like, if I hit it in BPN in January, would I have went as hard from February to October in my training? Probably, because I would still then I would have a new goal. But like
Right.
that whole prep leading up to Chicago was so sweet, and hitting all of those workouts and really like just making it made it even better.
Yeah. No,
It
absolutely.
made me work even harder. So,
And so what would you say is the next big goal? 250 in Berlin?
yeah, I mean, we're hopefully run sub 121 in March in New York City for the half, and then yes, sub 250 for the full. I'm running the Berlin Marathon September, so hopefully, yeah, not hopefully, I think we can easily go sub 250. I can say
Yeah.
with my new coach and just the new training we have going on, it's everything's hitting perfectly.
Awesome. And are there any other like last things you want to kind of add or throw in?
In what avenue you want me to throw in?
Just life or just the podcast in general, anything that you kind of want to a message you want to give to people.
Oh, okay. I would just say consistency is the key to everything. And if you want something, just show up. I mean, even if you're just showing up for 2 miles, it's better than showing up for 0 miles. And just that just grows in your body. And when that alarm goes off on day 20 of constantly showing up, it just gets easier and easier and easier. And it just molds you into whatever you're looking to be. So I
Absolutely.
think for me, it's just showing up daily. And I think that just is the key to whatever you want to succeed in, or however you want to succeed.
Totally agree, especially on runs, right? Like sometimes you're not feeling it, you get out there, you just start moving your legs, and at the end, I've never
Exactly.
regretted a run. I've never
No,
regretted a run.
yeah, I always say the mile 9 always feels better than like mile 1.
Yeah, it's
Like
true.
you're always starting off and you're like, I don't know if I want to be here today. And then once you get in a little groove, just goes right by.
Absolutely, man. But I really, if you kind of want to tell people where they could find you,
Yeah, I mean, you guys can find me on Instagram at Matty K Runs, Matty K Runs. Tons of reels and tons of just my journey on my running and just how I can help you or motivate you. On TikTok, posting here and there, not as big, but find me on TikTok as well. Same thing at Matty K Runs.
awesome, man. I appreciate it. I seriously, I've been following you for a bit now, and I really do love watching the journey, and I'm sure anybody that follows you feels the same way. Of
Thank you. I appreciate it.
course, man. Have a good day.
You too.